Welcome to Impact Ready, a show dedicated to helping you elevate your impact in the world. I'm Steph Saffer, your host. Let's explore the power of showing up with intention and energy each day. This is for those who seek to make life truly meaningful. Get ready for impact. Hey team, hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Today we are going to talk about ownership, specifically something that I call radical ownership. And it's one of my favorite things to talk about, mostly because I think it is probably the biggest component to having powerful impact, is to take radical ownership over your life. And we are going to explore that and get curious about what it is and then how it feels and what's possible as a result of that. So a little background on this. I remember when I was younger, I learned about something called radical acceptance. This idea that you fully accept things as they are in life, and that you honor the difficult situations and emotions that are a part of that experience. This idea of radical acceptance falls under the category of DBT, which is a behavioral therapy. And I remember when I was younger and I learned about this, I thought that is so spot on. Like the idea of radical acceptance just felt so true to me. And so it's really just helpful to think about the struggles and the stressors and the challenges that we face in life. Having this idea of acceptance felt so true and authentic to me, and really released a lot of the struggle out of different circumstances. As I was coming into coaching in my late 20s and getting more familiar with self-development and this idea that you can actually create change in your life, I learned about this idea of ownership, taking responsibility for things in your life. And I got deeper and deeper into this, and I just started exploring it because it was really appealing to me. The fact that you could take ownership of things in your life felt so empowering. And so as I got deeper into it, I started calling it radical ownership. And I'm sure I didn't coin that phrase. Somebody else might have said it. I can't remember where I pick up all of this stuff. But the idea of radical ownership to me was ownership raised to the degree of it just being so complete and so radical that you take responsibility for every single thing in your sphere, in your life. So that's all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the actions and behaviors, everything that happened in your past, everything that's happening in your present. You are taking ownership of your dreams and your desires, your habits, the ways that you care for yourself or don't care for yourself, your breath, the way you dress, the way that you show up, what kind of energy you bring to the room. I mean, just all of it, team. Radical ownership of everything that you bring to the table, externally or internally. If it's here in your life, if it's in your sphere, you claim that and you own that. You manage it. And this is true whether or not it is your fault, whether or not you asked for it, whether or not it was totally accidental that it showed up in your life. The bottom line is, if it's here, it is yours to own. And this idea has really changed and shaped the way that I've been navigating my life in the last 5 years. It has just been absolutely monumental. And so I share this with you and I share it with my clients as one of the main pillars of having a positive, powerful impact in your world. And there's a reason for this. I think that if you want to have impact, and you want it to be powerful and you want it to be intentional or purposeful, you have to have self-awareness. And to have self-awareness, you have to take ownership of everything that's going on. And this can be a really challenging thing for people. And I understand why. When I first heard about this idea of ownership, much like many of the coaching topics that I'm discussing on this show, I had a lot of resistance to it. I thought, wait a minute, how can you have ownership of something that you didn't ask for? Or how can you have ownership of something that was really traumatic, something that you never wanted in your life in the first place, something that is tragic even? And I thought about how this applied to my own life. How was I going to take ownership of the fact that I lost my dad to leukemia when I was 7 years old? How was I going to make sense of the fact that I've had friends pass away? I've lost people. I've had hard things like everyone else in the world. How do you make sense of that? And how do you take ownership of that? I understood the resistance to that, and I still do. But as I started integrating this idea more and more, it actually allowed me to have more freedom, more space, more healing than I ever thought I would be capable of as a result of this idea. And it starts with this question. In a circumstance, I ask myself, what can I own here? Or what is mine to own here? And it starts this train of thought to start to understand, okay, what are the feelings or the thoughts or the actions that I need to take responsibility for? What do I need to manage? What patterns of behavior am I infusing into this situation that maybe aren't helpful or are helpful? What are some of the limiting beliefs that are going on in the back of my mind that are influencing the way that I'm talking to this person? What could I be doing differently or saying differently? Am I communicating or am I not using my voice? Am I not expressing my needs or desires? And that's part of the issue. Asking this question, what can I own, unlocks all of this curiosity and all of this willingness to look at something in a different way. And it is so freeing. This curiosity and willingness that you have to have as part of this, it's the ability to look at something without defensiveness. It's the ability to resist the urge to blame other people or other circumstances in the world. It's the ability to say, I don't want to be a victim to this. I actually want to claim this so that I can start finding a solution. And that's a completely different perspective. But let me tell you something. It is the gateway to this level of freedom that, frankly, I had never experienced before I started exercising this. It's freedom for a couple of reasons. One, when you take ownership of something, you automatically get to a place where you can start to find a solution that works for you. If you are not owning a situation, it puts the onus on other people. The responsibility is on them, and then you lose control of the solution or what happens or the actions that other people have or the feelings, and it can feel very disempowering. So taking ownership helps you get right to solutions. The other thing that it does is it releases you from being beholden to other people's reactions, their emotions, their feelings about a circumstance. And here's the beauty of that. You never had control of that anyway. And so many of us are in this like lockdown fight to try to control other people and manage the situation when we never really had control over any of that stuff anyway. And it's struggle. It's suffering for so many people. You see this in families, in relationships, with parents and their kids, with between spouses, with colleagues, with bosses, leaders. When you're trying to manage other people's feelings and emotions around a situation, you're just in struggle because you are never in control of that. But when you can just take ownership of something, you remove it. You remove that obstacle and you say, you know what? Their reaction gets to be their own. I'm going to do my best in this situation. What can I own here? And there's a whole new level of freedom that unlocks. Now, there's a few distinctions that I want to make about what radical ownership is and what it isn't. So what radical ownership is not, it's not faking it. It's not acting like nothing's wrong. It's not pretending to be someone you're not. It's not ignoring pain or emotions or feelings. It's not ignoring circumstances. It's not being a people pleaser. It's not being approving of everything. That's actually the opposite of ownership. I was doing a leadership workshop and one of the team members asked me, okay, Steph, sometimes I don't feel like I have the energy to show up for my team. I can't show up with good energy in these meetings because I'm depleted. So if I'm trying to be responsible for my energy and be owning that, and I don't really truly feel it, what am I supposed to do? And it's a great question because in our culture, there's definitely a perception that you have to show up in a specific way. And we have a lot of mental health issues as a result of that. But what ownership truly is saying, okay, I might be feeling depleted right now. I don't have a lot of energy for this very thing. It's not ignoring that. But what it is saying is, what can I own here? And a lot of times what's required and what you need to own is I have a team to serve, or I have a family to serve, or I have kids to lift up right now. And so I need to bring my best energy despite the fact that I'm tired. I'm not ignoring that. I'm not putting my head in the sand around that, but I need to acknowledge that I need to show up with great energy right now so that I can inspire the people around me. That's something I need to own. And then that second layer to ownership is, what led me to feeling depleted in the first place? Is there something I need to own there? Maybe around my health habits or my sleep or my nutrition or my exercise. Why is my energy low? And so you can see how there's just so many different layers to the potential of ownership in your life. There's one more distinction about what radical ownership is not. And that is, it's not owning everything. It's not owning all things for all people. Radical ownership is what is within your sphere, and being able to tell the difference between what is yours to own versus what is somebody else's to own is a really important part of this work. And it takes a little bit of practice and kind of pulling apart sometimes, because especially in relationships, things can get a little convoluted or nuanced. In marriages, in, certain working relationships, there's a lot of connection, or there's, a lot of circumstances that are dependent on another person. And so it can get a little bit, there's some gray area there. But the work of radical ownership is to pull that apart and say, what is truly mine to own and what is for that person to own, and not try to control that, but rather just take responsibility for what is yours. That's a very important part of radical ownership. So that's kind of what ownership is not. What radical ownership is, like I was saying, it's freedom, baby. It is absolute freedom. You are not beholden to other people's emotions or whims. It is a gateway to solutions, because when you claim something and it becomes something that is on your plate, you then put a lot more interest in finding a solution. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it is possible to get to a solution much more quickly than if you have the responsibility on 10 other people that you really have no control over. It is also being intentional. It's being purposeful, and it is being in choice. So back to that example, trying to show up for a team and not feeling like you have the energy to be your best, you have a choice to make, always. And being in choice is one of the greatest freedoms that we have. And so what is mine to own here? You might just have to say, I need to own that I need to make better choices in the future so that I can have great energy. But in this moment, I need to show up. That's what leaders do. That's what great parents do. That's what great spouses do. Maybe I also need to communicate, hey, I'm a little low energy right now. And, I'm working on that, but I'm going to bring my best. That's something you can own also. So I wanted to start this conversation around radical ownership because it's something that we're going to pull the needle through all the way this show. I'm going to be talking about radical ownership a lot and referring back to this because, again, it is one of the biggest pillars to impact and self-awareness. And I think without ownership, it's really hard to make the change that you want to make. It's hard to make the progress that you want to make if you're not even sure what is yours to own in your life. So I invite you and I challenge you to ask yourself this question this week. What can I own here? In any situation, whether it's with your friends or your family or your partner or your colleagues, what can I own here? So that you can then be in choice and start to take responsibility for every single thing in your life. I promise you, it's empowering. It is absolute freedom. I'm excited for you to try this. I hope this spurs on some insights. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being ready to impact. Thanks for listening to Impact Ready. I hope today's episode inspired you to own your impact and recognize that you are powerful. By elevating our energy and awareness, we can create exponential change in this life. If you enjoyed today's insights, share them with a friend and subscribe to the show for more. I truly appreciate you. Thanks again for being here.